This is the first in a series of tutorial videos for Teragon. Teragon is a third-party random map generator created by Pille for the game 7 Days to Die. In the future, it will also be available for making maps in other games. Teragon gives you a lot of control for how your maps will turn out. Unlike the in-game random world generator, which has few options, Teragon has many commands, each with many parameters. Each of these gives you a lot of control over how your map will turn out. These additional commands and parameters do make Teragon more challenging to learn and also increase the time to generate maps compared to the random world generator. However, your final maps will end up looking a lot better than what you would get in the random world generator. The first time you open Teragon after installing it, you will receive this initial setup screen. It's important that you verify the paths on this screen before pressing OK. Incorrect paths can lead to missing POI or other problems with your maps. Make sure the game directory points to the location where the game's exe file is located. If you're not sure about the path, open Steam and right-click on 7 Days to Die. Choose Manage, and then choose Browse Local Files. This will open up the location where the exe file is located, and you can copy and paste that path into the game directory path here. App data will almost always be correct, but double check it, make sure that it is pointing to the correct location for your username. User data will be the location where your mods, POI, save files, and worlds are saved. This will usually be the same location as app data, but with the folder 7 Days to Die added to the end of the path. But if you are using a different location, you need to make sure that the path is correct and pointing to that location. The game version should match the game version that you are using. For version 1.0 and higher, the format is v.1.1.999 for 1.1 or v.1.0.999 for 1.0. Newer versions will use the same format, just adjust the version number to match whatever version of the game you are using. The 999 relates to what number is after the B in the game's version, but by using 999, it will work for any updates to the game for that version of the game. It will still give a warning message in your log for the game that the version number isn't correct, but this can be ignored and it will not affect how your game plays. You can use the actual number after the B instead of 999. However, doing so means that you may need to update that number every time the game updates. It's also important to know that you need to update the game version in Teragon whenever the game is updated to a new version. So when version 1.2 comes out, you'll need to go into this initial setup and change the version to 1.2. When everything is correct in here, press OK, and you'll be taken to the main screen. In order to get back into the initial setup, you go to the Tools menu, Initial Setup, and you're back in this screen. The first time you load Teragon, and anytime Teragon updates, there will not be a preset loaded, so this screen is going to be blank instead of what you see here. To load a preset, go into File and Load, open up Default, and choose the preset you want to load. In this case, I'm going to load World Generator 1. You can load that or another default preset, or you can load your own preset as well. Once this is loaded, you'll see this screen. At the top here is a description of the preset. The default presets will all show a description for the preset that you're loading. If you're loading your own preset or someone else's preset, it may still show the information from the default preset that they used as a template for creating their own preset, unless they have edited this description. You also see a preview of the map. Again, the default presets will show this preview. If you are using your own preset or someone else's preset, this will be blank unless a preview is saved to be used with the preset. On the right side are tips. These are randomly shown each time you load Teragon. When you first start using Teragon, these tips may not make much sense, but as you start using Teragon and learning how it works, some of these tips may help you come up with some ways to generate some more interesting maps. Below the description are the two main fields that you need to look at. Output directory is going to be the location where your map will be saved and where the game will be able to load the map. It is recommended that you always leave it as user data/generated worlds as shown here. This will pull the path from your user data folder in that initial setup screen. By using this instead of typing in an actual path, it allows you to share your preset with others, either so they can use it or to help troubleshoot any problems you may have without them having to change the path to match their own path before you're trying to run the preset. By using user data, whoever gets the preset, it's going to use their initial setup path. The next line here is the world. This is going to be the name of your map. It's also the folder where your world is generated. That folder will be placed into the generated worlds folder located here. If it is in red like this, it means the folder already exists. That's a warning to you not to generate a new map there unless you want to overwrite what is already there. If you overwrite your world, you will not be able to get that back unless you have a backup. So it's important not to use the same folder name that you already have unless you know that you want to replace what's there. If there is not a folder already there, the red will be gone and it's going to look like this. As long as it looks like this, you can make a world without having to worry about possibly removing or replacing a world you've already made. Below that, you have some basic commands. These commands change depending on the preset that you have loaded. In World Generator 1, these are the ones that you will see. When you first start using Teragon, it's a good idea to try just generating maps without changing anything that isn't on this screen. You can change the seed to get different maps, adjust the world size, and any of these other parameters. That will give you a variety of good maps that you can use to start with until you have time to learn all of the ways that you can use Teragon to make your own custom maps. On the left side here are your main map generation buttons. Run will start the map generation. If you pause map generation at an interrupt, you can press continue and it will continue the generation from that point. If you pause the generation while you're inside a loop, you can click repeat to rerun the loop. When you are paused at an interrupt, if you want to skip the command that you're at and continue on from there, you can press skip. If you want to pause the generation, you can click on interrupt. This will pause the generation at the next command. It will not pause the generation in the middle of the currently running command. Stop will completely stop the map generation. This will stop it at the next command as well, and cannot be used to stop it in the middle of the currently running command. These are all the features that you have on the basic tab here. The next tab we will look at is the expert tab. The expert tab is really where everything happens in Teragon. It's recommended that you first make some maps using the basic tab so you get an idea of what Teragon does before you start looking at the expert tab. The expert tab is going to be a lot more complicated and will take a lot more time to learn how it works. On the expert tab, you have 4 main columns. The first column are your available commands. These are all the commands possible to be used in Teragon. The command queue are the commands that are being used in your current preset. This third column will show you information about the command that you are currently viewing. You'll be able to see the different parameters for that command and be able to change those parameters however you like. And the final column is the help text column. This is information about the current command, explaining what the command is for, what the different parameters are, and how they're used. Some commands will include screenshots that show different values for some of the parameters being used. This can help you to see what the difference is if you change the parameters to different values. If you want to add a new command to your command queue, you start by clicking a point in the command queue where you want the command to be added, and the command will end up being added in the following position. So if I want to add something after create flat height map, I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to click on a command that I want to add. And then click on this arrow at the bottom, and it will be added after create flat height map. If you want to remove a command from your command queue, click on the command you want to remove, click this arrow button at the bottom, and the command will be removed. You also have these arrows going up and down. These will let you move commands up or down in the command queue. So if I want to move add height map down, I can do so, or I can move it up. These can help you to adjust the position of commands if they're not in the order that you want. If you want to duplicate a command, including all the same parameter values, click on a command that you want to duplicate, click the D button, and now you have a duplicate of the command with the same parameter values. The default presets have colors on them to help organize them and make it easier to tell what each section is doing. You can do this in your own presets as well. To do so, click on a command that you want to change the color for. Click on C for color and choose the color you want to use. Press OK. And now the command has a color that you chose. If you want to remove the color, click on that command again, click the R for remove, and now the color is removed. It's optional to do this, but it can make it easier to understand the preset and to quickly see the sections that you're looking for. The default presets also make use of the comment command, which lets you put a comment anywhere in the preset that can help you explain what a section is. In this case, we've got basic setup, mountains, hills, depressions, and so on. To add your own comment, click on the comment command and add it to the command queue. It's going to start out blank like this. Although there is a title and text box here, this is just for adding information that you may want to add to the preset. If you want to change the name, so it says something like depressions, you're going to double click on it and type in whatever you want it to say and press OK. And now you have the text that you want. This is the only command currently where you double click on it to do something. As with colors, adding comments for sections is entirely optional. It can help you to quickly find sections that you're looking for, but it doesn't affect your map generation at all. Each command also has this section at the top with a run button that lets you run just that single command. Show example, which will show an example of using that command. And load defaults, which will load the default values for that command. Note that running a command by itself often will not work because it requires information from other commands. However, there are times where you can use this to save yourself a lot of time. Show example is only available for certain commands. And load defaults, again, will just load whatever the defaults are for the command that you're looking at. The enabled checkbox will either enable or disable the command. If you don't want the command to run, but you also don't want to remove it from your command queue, you can just click on the enabled button so that it's unchecked. You'll see down here that it now has a line through it to indicate that it's not going to run. And then during map generation, it's going to skip that command. To turn it back on, just put a check mark here. The line will disappear from the command, and it will now be used again. And the last one is interrupt. When checked, you'll see an underline for the command. And unchecked, that will go away. If used, this will pause generation automatically at that command before the command is run. In the default presets, this is used at create main roads. The reason for this is roads take a lot longer to generate. So the default presets are set up with a preview right before that, and then it pauses. That lets you see how the map looks before roads are generated. You'll be able to see your terrain and any towns and POI that are there before making roads. If you like how it looks, you can click on continue, and the map generation will continue and create the roads and finish out the preset. If you decide that you don't like something about how it looks, you can just hit stop, make some changes, and rerun it without having to spend the time generating roads. You can use this anywhere in the preset, and it will pause the preset at that point. This will work the same as pressing the interrupt button, except for this is automatic, and the interrupt button is something you click on manually. The next thing that we're going to look at is 2D preview. But before we do, make sure that you have this command update preview in your preset, and that you run it when generating your map. If that's not there or disabled, 2D preview will remain blank like this. So you need to make sure that it's in your preset and that you do use it when generating your map. You can have as many update previews in your preset as you want. World Generator 1 has 2 of them. Each time that you have an update preview, it will update the preview on the 2D preview tab. This can let you see how your map looks at different points while generating the map. Make sure that wherever you place update preview, that any of these map names that are listed here have already been created. If you place update preview before creating one of these map names, then you should remove it from update preview. For example, if I put update preview before making biomes, then I should erase my biome map from here on that update preview. You can still leave it on any update previews that are after creating biomes. This can help prevent any kinds of problems when generating your preview. Once you've generated your map and update preview has been run, you can click on 2D preview to see a 2D preview of your map. You'll be able to see the towns and terrain on your map to make sure that it's the way you want it to look. Over here we have statistics for your map. You'll be able to see the map size and elevations, as well as the number of POI for each tier, the average population of zombies, which would be the number of zombies in all POI that are on the map, the number of traders, and the number of tiles in your towns. Up here we have a search box. This allows you to search for a specific POI. For example, if I type in school, it's going to list all school POI on the map. As you can see, the school POI are now all flashing yellow so that they're easy to find. Because I just wrote school, you can see I've got school 03 here and school 02 here. This is going to show all school POI. If I had typed in school 02, I would only see the school 02 POI. You can see that there's a total of 17 of them, and you'll be able to get statistics for each one if you put the mouse over the POI. You'll also be able to see additional properties for the POI. Make sure you put a mouse over the POI you want to look at, and you'll be able to see the properties for that POI. Any POI that you put your mouse over will show the screenshot of the POI and the name, as well as location and size. If you want to hide this so you can see your map better, you can hide it by clicking that arrow button. You can bring it back by clicking the arrow again. On this 2D preview, all of these orange squares are your traders. Your gateways are these light green tiles. And the other colored tiles represent the different districts in the town. For example, this blue color is the rural district, and this purple color is residential. If you're not sure which one is which, you can just put your mouse over the tile, and in that search box it will say that it's RWG tile rural, so you know this is the rural district. After you generate the map to this point, if you like how everything looks, you can then hit continue and generate roads and finish making your map. If it's not what you like, if you want to make some changes, you can hit stop, make those changes, and then regenerate the map. Once you like it, you can then continue on and finish the map. The next thing we're going to look at is 3D Preview. In order to see anything on the 3D Preview tab, you need to go to the Expert tab and make sure that you're using Update Preview 3D. Update Preview 3D only affects the 3D Preview, and Update Preview only affects the 2D Preview. Make sure that Update Preview 3D is added to your preset and enabled, and that you use it when you run the preset in order to get a preview on the 3D Preview tab. Once you've run that command in your preset, you can go to 3D Preview. You're going to see a top-down view of your map in the center of your map. In this case, this is a crater in the center. To control the preview, click on Control 3D Preview and click on the map. And now you can control the preview and look around. While you're controlling the preview, if you press F1, it will show you your available commands. As you can see, you can move around with WASD. You move up and down. If you're close to terrain and turn on the flashlight, you'll be able to see a light around the terrain. And if you use the laser pointer, you get this red box in the middle. If that's enabled and you go to a tile or POI, it's going to show that in the top corner of the screen. If it's disabled, you won't see that change. This can make it easier to help find what POI you're looking at. Most of the rest of the commands you're not going to need unless you want to take a screenshot. The other one that you may want to use is the increase view distance. As you can see, I can only see POI in towns about halfway across the screen. If your computer can handle it, and you can increase the view distance to see POI across the entire screen, which can make it easier to see where everything's located. If your computer slows down too much when doing that, you can lower that to something that keeps your frame rate at a reasonable level. You can also increase how fast you move around the map by using your mouse wheel, either up or down, to increase the speed or decrease the speed. While you're moving around the map, you can take a look at the towns. You'll be able to see the roads and POI that are around. If you recognize certain POI, you can tell what they are in this 3D preview, even if you don't have the laser pointer on. For example, this is the wedding POI. Right next to it is one of the school POI. If you're not sure what they are, you can use the laser pointer, and you can see that this is school 01. Besides looking at the towns and POI, you can take a look at your terrain, make sure it looks the way you want, make sure your rivers look good, check and see whether or not the terrain's either too rough or too smooth for what you're looking for. And if you've already generated roads, you'll be able to see the roads and any bridges that are on the map. When you're done looking at the map, you can press escape. That's going to give you your cursor back so that you can then click on other things. If you want to control the map again, you can once again click Control 3D Preview and click on the map, and you'll be able to control the map again. The next tab we're going to look at is testing. You'll mostly not use testing, but it does have a personal notes section with different tabs. If you want to, you can place notes here to keep track of things. Anything placed here is not saved with a preset, which means that this information will be available no matter which preset you load, and will not be shared if you share your preset with other people. If you add notes to the expert tab for commands themselves, those are saved with your preset, which means they are only available for that preset, and if you share your preset, those notes are shared as well. The next tab is Help Center. This is where all the help information is located. You have links for support and world building, some tutorial and documentation, and the main documentation for Teragon is here as well. Any of the commands that you have on the Expert tab are here, and you can see the help text for those. This is the same help text that you have on the Expert tab if you click on that same command. However, because this is a bigger screen, it makes it easier to read, and your screenshots for it will be bigger, making them easier to look at as well. In addition to the commands that are on the Expert tab, there is other information as well, things like tips and tricks, interface information such as the 3D preview, and at the bottom, any common problems and how you might be able to fix those. If you're first starting to use Teragon, we recommend that you look at this help text, maybe not all of it, but at least some of it, to get an idea of how Teragon works. And doing so can help you get some ideas for how to make Teragon work best for you. The console tab is the last tab. This is a log of everything that's happening inside Teragon. As long as Use Console is enabled, this information will be generated every time you're using Teragon. You can choose what kind of information you want to show up here. Note that changing this will not change anything that's already on the screen, but will change any new information. Once version 0.51 stable is released, or if you're using the testing version, there is a full logging option. This will save everything from the console to your log file while you're generating a map. That can make it easier to find any problems that may be occurring. However, keep in mind that full logging takes up a lot of space, so it's recommended to leave it off unless you're troubleshooting something. One more thing I'd like to look at on the Expert tab is this button here. Everything that's on your Basic tab is actually a command or parameter on this Expert tab. So if you click on this button, you'll see description field and show in basic options for each parameter. If you see here, we've got this one checked, show in basic. The description is crevices, and it's for an enabled checkbox. If we look at the basic tab, we'll see crevices with the enabled checkbox. If you wanted to have crevice count there, you could type in crevice count or some other name that would make sense for you. Click on show in basic, and now you can change that from the basic tab. This is mostly useful if you're going to share your preset with other people and you want to put certain commands on that basic tab so that someone who doesn't yet know Teragon can make those changes without having to learn the Expert tab. That's something that's optional, but it can make things useful if you want to create shared presets for people. You can hide this information so there's more space for the parameters by clicking this arrow button again, and then it will be hidden. If you're interested in seeing a text version of the information from this video, Teragon has a tour available by pressing F12 or by going to the Help menu and clicking on Tour through Teragon. This will take you through Teragon, looking at the interface and explaining different parts of the interface and how to do things, just like this video does, but in a text format. If you have any questions or need any help, please check out the Chat and Help channel on Teragon's Discord, and someone will be able to help you.